like not on here, but on my phone because I need to text my laptop. Oh wait, no, I can just log into my blue jeans.
There it is.
One plug. That's fine. I have more over there. Let me see. There's more under here. No. Look at this chair.
You already do all these instructions.
Yep.
You have to verify.
What?
You have to verify.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Hey, for the workshop. Here for the workshop. Yeah, come in. You're at the right place. Then we should put the meeting here on to this for the vertical section. What if not?
Technically, we're not supposed to live.
Okay. Yeah. That's. And we don't want to encourage people to join. So.
What's going for 2,200?
4,400 right now. Second. Trying to do like datasets.
Yeah. I use it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not here about it. They take a long time to like send you. I said even like body they just want to impact me.
Serious.
I think it
I'm too sure. I'm going to like. Are you doing CS9?
Yeah.
You are? Is that okay? If you can like a lot of classes.
I'm taking 30.
You've taken 32 last semester?
Yeah, I took 32 last semester.
No, I'm taking it right now.
It's hard.
Where it's like binary search trees, which like
It gets hard.
it got harder. Yeah, I know.
It gets hard for like the. Does he reach?
I'm a first midterm for that class. Wednesday. Not Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday. First midterm?
Yeah.
Just get a good grade on that.
Yeah. What kind of diagrams?
Actually, that was good.
Yeah,
I know they go well.
yeah, all the big O's. This is the top.
Oh, that could
Okay, do you know where the plaza is between like the four rooms?
It's actually on it.
We'll go behind the building. We'll go to the plaza. I went from that. It's like this. It's on L1. 11. What are the coding questions like? Do you guys like type the ad method for?
It'll be like the
Like straight up
exactly.
Yeah, so just like straight up. Over there.
So like, yeah, they just ask. I mean, for the first time, it's like straight for the rate list.
Wait, is the rate on?
Yeah, you have to like do the same thing. That shouldn't be that. This could be covered. So yeah, just put a code. You gotta know how you did it. The hard part for me was the coding. The rest of it. I got everything in the class. Overall, it's it. It's not too bad.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's interesting.
That's important. 20.
Really?
It's so tough.
That's what I think I'm going to do this semester. I'm taking, instead of that one, I said take 23 for it.
Implementation.
Yeah.
It's like 32.
Anything from it? That's fair. Sorry? Pages. There was. I can move up. Just kind of sit here. We know, we can talk. Get in there, Jim. This is on my friend's side. No, we were friends since high school. Yeah.
Or are you on the slide?
I got 2 minutes. Yeah, more time.
So we have just one day. It's your email.
It's just going to be CS.
Oh yeah, after that, oh yeah, and the other stuff is Python, and then I'm going to present it on GH and
You're my old class, right? You're my old class. Weightlifting.
Yeah, we are.
Because I had been those people. I will add you to.
That's like give me my tag.
Yeah, add you to.
Got changed. It was 6. No, and then we just ran by the kid in the box. I cut off the cap, the steak, put it over my mouth, and chew it while I was fighting, and then grabbed the breadstick and ate it while I was ready.
Yeah.
I know there's like a project and like a new semester here. Yeah. But I just wanted to. It's your first year. What you doing? Second. I know you would like to slap. Okay.
You want to just write down this?
I mean, you can
You see us? 1732. I want to do computational analysis, so you finish Calc 3 and 4 apply.
You did Calc 4. Yeah. And I didn't know if you did you? I'm pretty sure it just goes up to Calc 1, 2, 3, and yes, you can do that.
No, I think I just finished multi this semester, then I can play. Like the new book? Yes. Dumbass class. Should I do it pretty good? Should I get the no. Yes. He's probably taught dumbass. Your test tomorrow? Yeah, actually, no. One shot. This is not true. I'm checking how much it is. I should really have you have a hire maybe you don't understand. Like I talk to my friends about yourself. You guys don't get stories. But it's dog. You ever see your homework. I think yours takes longer than Are you guys going to do the short only sometimes. When
Not terrible.
Oh yeah.
So I just like open close. Yeah.
Oh, is that no? So you can just write like all the added Jensen, Faris. What's the name of the person? Oh yeah. DSGT. Yeah, no. You can just do it like different.
Yeah.
I should. Like where do you projects for? We still have it.
Yes.
What's the mom? Learning about Virginia and history.
Oh, US history.
I'm taking US history, so like.
Alright, hey everyone. We can go and get started. Yeah, so we're going to get started. So welcome to the first workshop for DSGT Bootcamp. We're your presenters. I guess we can introduce ourselves. So I'm Neil. I'm a third-year CS major.
I'm Samyak. I'm a first-year CS major.
I'm Faris, fourth-year CS major.
I guess we'll get to know a little bit about you guys. So how many of you guys are first years? 3 second years? Third years? And any fourth years or above? 1? Okay, cool. CS majors? IE majors? And any other major? What are you guys majoring in? Anything else?
Policy.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, so first, so does everyone have access to the Google Drive with the workshops? If you search up like search up Spring 2022 Bootcamp material, and you should have access to it. If you do not, you need to let us know. Okay, cool. And then Samyak will present the first portion of the workshop.
Okay. So guys, we'll start with Google Colab. And first, you can look at the learning objectives. So like, get an understanding of what we're going to do in this workshop. So yeah, Google Colab is basically a cell-based Python text editor. It helps when you want to run like small snippets of code at a time instead of running the full file. It gives you the option of running the full file also, but like it's basically cell-based, so you can run one line at a time or like 2 lines at a time as per your choice. Also, Google Colab lets you access data from Google Drive. So we're going to show you how to do that in a second. And like it helps you use Google servers for computing so that you're able to parse bigger data sets. There are 2 types of cells in Google Colab, a code cell and a markdown cell. We'll be using mostly code cells only. Markdown cells is for like basically commenting your code and like letting your readers know what's going on. These are a few basic commands used in Google Colab. So Shift Enter lets you run the cell and like points you to the next cell, and this basically runs the cell and creates a new cell for you. And as I said, it allows you to run the whole notebook at once instead of running the cells. So for that, you use this command, and like you can add text or code to your file using these commands. Now let's head over to Cap. Does anyone have any questions?
You can do questions. Yeah, if you have any questions.
If you have any questions about Google Colab. Any other questions? let's head over to Kaggle. Kaggle is basically a website which allows you to practice any skills using. If you're in the need of a dataset, Kaggle is the place. So they have, in addition to datasets, they also have data science challenges. So basically, you can compete on those challenges and look at the leaderboard to see where you stand right now. And for this bootcamp, we'll be using Kaggle. Specifically, we will be using the Kaggle Titanic dataset. This dataset models variables related to the passengers and victims of the Titanic sinking incident. So you'll basically predict on based on a set of features that the passenger will survive or not. And at the end of the bootcamp, you'll submit your machine learning model to the leaderboards and see how well you perform in comparison to the other participants. Okay. Now we look at how to access the Titanic dataset. So you can go ahead and read these instructions, and if you face any problem, you can reach out to us. I'm not sure. So I'm going to be doing it myself, so if anyone's facing issues, you can.
Yeah, would appreciate if you guys could follow along on your own machines, because I know some people are going to have trouble following these instructions. All of these need to be followed exactly with a dot, with a period, because you are all going to submit your work using the folder that is created under these instructions. So make sure you guys follow these instructions and let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah, so do you not have edit access?
Yeah, I don't have edit access. I don't know if anyone else.
I should have it.
Can everyone just make sure you all have access? Do you have access?
Or I don't have permission to edit, so I can't make my own folder.
Yeah. Hold up.
No, just
I have to manually add everyone. So it's taking.
Put down your wait, is it the or the whole spring 2022 bootcamp material?
I have access, I just can't edit it. Like, it doesn't let me create new folders.
Okay, in that case,
Yes, same with me.
The same with me.
I think everyone says that issue.
guys, those of you who have access, can you please go ahead and make your folders in the participants folder?
there.
I think your name is already there, but it's just set to viewing mode.
Interviewer. We brought that. I did the editor. Make everyone an editor. Yes, should I just make everyone an editor?
Neil is already doing that, so I just want you to make sure your name is there.
Okay. Let's see.
Okay, now everyone should have edit access.
Okay, can everyone check?
I'm not able to I'm not able to edit and like write myself.
Okay, but you have viewing access, right?
Yeah.
Can you check this? Okay. Does anyone else
First
does
name
not
was
have
not first name.
editing access? You need to have editing access, not just viewing access.
Yes. You have to make your own.
Double click, going to open and the right click is usually you can. Okay, cool. You're all set.
Where the folder thing.
Yeah, the first name and last name.
Yeah.
This one. Alright, sweet.
No, you just make a new folder. So you see notes one.
Yes.
Click on the, or no, this is folder.
Just this one.
Are you signed into the right?
It should be open. So first I navigated to the materials, but then went to the workshop. Since it's direct.
Yeah.
It's fine. Bro,
Does anyone need any help with mounting their drive?
I think you just like create a copy.
So did you
You're on your
like
this is where you go. Yeah, I don't know. And then you save it.
workshop
Workshop one. Let's make a comment. I don't know the last name, dog.
Okay, he did.
I'm just gonna go just in case. It was like supposed to be.
How many of you have mounted your drive?
Yes, make sure everyone follow the instructions on this page and make sure you mount your drive because otherwise you will not be able to use this.
I don't think there's but as long as there's which you guys, we can run like the entire. Does anyone else need any help besides one, two? Okay, I see a lot of hands. I'll help you first.
That's what drive out when it says click the link.
Yes. You can use either, but you should use yours preferably.
Oh wait, I really did this.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, like 60 for
Anyone else need help?
Oh, that's
I made a copy.
That's up geeking.
I've already done.
Remove the comment.
That's it. Drive, I just clicked it.
Yeah.
It's already made.
Just like trying to set up.
So you can move it to folder you created.
I will save a copy. Literally go into
My drive.
like okay, instead of like having to like usually copy, go to file and then like save a copy and then move it to the password.
That's really
That's much easier.
Guys, can you all please follow this format for naming your file?
Yeah, I mean, last name is Cash.
You should be able to run. Go to the first line.
Oh, I think that's where you would save the.
Click on that. And authorize access.
Oh, I didn't.
That should look like does anyone else need any?
This you make the folder, but you don't save it. You save it as a
Like missing the
Stop.
To make a copy, so you need to do that. So go to the original notebook. Go to this one, material.
Yeah.
Photoshop 1. Go to the original.
I'm a little.
Make a copy.
So we save this copy in our.
Not that one, just like the top one. That's the original. Yeah. Click on that.
You say that right our own files.
Yes,
Your folder. Just
Okay. So yeah. Okay. So and then there's this instruction of like saving it.
And then go to the actual file. And then here.
No, that's
Okay.
Finally, you have to
You should rename it. So first name, last name.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's the code. And then for the first. So that's the file. Go back to your file and workshop.
Okay, anyone else need any help?
So not the drill, but the on and then duplicate that.
Yes, the other instructions. It can be written all. So right now we just want to of this.
Okay. I'll show you how to do it.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Just make a new copy.
was that fine?
No,
Like for
you
now,
can rename it later.
that's
but
all you have to do, just to create a perfect copy.
and run the first line. And if it runs, then you should. I'm going to ask you to authorize it and then authorize.
Like analytics, but Coffee. I don't know if this should work.
Keep it in the chat from Pete.
There's a drill tells you.
Yeah, that means
You have to change the direction. I don't really know what you're going to do. The thing is, that's not the I think you have to do this. You have to go back. What's the go back?
History chairs.
Yeah.
Anybody else needs any help? Make sure you all have your copy in your Yep.
It's not. It's just multiplied.
Yeah, that's because you have not mounted your Colab. So you need to follow
That's
the
the
process
greatest
as well.
one.
So you can this. And press the play button now.
It's any like branch of architecture.
What?
You can say a specific branch of architecture.
No. Yes. Like what?
That is a nice chair.
Like, oh,
Yes, 32.
Oh, yeah.
So I think most of you have mounted it right. So now we'll go ahead and access our dataset. For that, you need to enter the drive directory. You will do that using the cd command. These are basically basic command line commands using that you see on the screen. PWD is to list every file that is in your folder. LS is to list the subfolders, and CD is to enter that directory. So you enter drive, you look at the. So as you see, there are my drive, other computers and shared drives inside drive. So now you need to enter my drive, and then bring 2020 Bootcamp. So that should be your current directory for everyone.
Okay, so that means you have to click on this button before this. So that's that. And now you just want to move to this folder, and now you are in this folder, and then you're done.
Oh wait, no, because it's
Like
So if you head over to this data folder in your drive, you'll see that you have this Titanic dataset over there, and we're going to use that dataset for this bootcamp.
You would call all of these in order.
First, you run on the
And authorize which like
run.
Well, just click on these arrows one by one. You should be. No. Okay.
Can you head over to your drive, please? I'll do that.
yeah. I'm kind of whitewashed, so that's what I'm trying to listen for music. It's got something. It's good though.
That's even
Last week? You look like dance?
If you're still trying to set it up, it's okay for now because like this will be the only time you have to do this. Once you do it for the first time, it's gonna be a lot easier the second time. So we're gonna move on just because we're running out of time. So let's actually talk about data science. So does anybody have an idea on what data science is? Ideas? Anyone? Yeah.
Quantifying and analyzing.
Yeah, so she said quantifying and analyzing data sets. Any other ideas?
Analyzing and predicting.
Predicting, that's another thing. Any other ideas? Yeah, so that's definitely part of it. But it's really more of like an interdisciplinary field. So you combine like computer science, math, statistics, and then knowledge about your actual data sets. And data science involves a lot of things, extracting knowledge from the data, and then predicting with the data like what future inputs would produce like for a specific output. So what do data scientists do? Any ideas on what do data scientists do? Since we just went over data science. Why did you guys come here to learn about data science? What do they do? Anyone?
It helps solve business problems by interpreting data.
Yeah, so that's a big component, interpreting data to solve like business needs, business problems. Do they just interpret data? Do they do anything else?
I mean,
What about collecting data?
Yeah.
So collecting data, analyzing data, and then also making models with the data. Especially if you're doing like any type of artificial intelligence or machine learning, that's a big thing data scientists do. So that brings us to like bootcamp. So what you guys are going to be doing this semester is essentially making a project with data science incorporated into it. So you're going to be able to choose your own data set and then answer a question you would like to investigate using data science. So we want like teams of 4 to 6, and every 2 weeks you're going to have these milestones where you have to like progressively advance based on the knowledge you've learned in the workshops. And we already have the first milestone set up. So I can go to that. So this will be accessible to everyone. If you go to the bootcamp and then milestone documents, we already have all of them pasted, but right now, the first one you need to worry about is milestone 1. And it's due in 2 weeks. So February 20th, I think we might push that back a bit, just because everyone's setting up. So essentially for the first milestone, you need to form a team, write a 1 to 2 page proposal outlining your idea of what you want to like study, what data set you want to use, and why your idea matters, what's the motivation behind the topic, how will success be measured, how will the data be collected, and once you finish your document, you can upload it to the team folder you make in the Google Drive, and we can worry about that like later on. But for now, you guys need to like find a team, and you can send in the Discord, or you can meet each other here and just make a team here. And find a team like that kind of suits your interests. So if you want to analyze like a healthcare data set, try to find people that are healthcare aligned. I've had a team like last semester work on cryptocurrency stuff. If you want to find people that want to do that. So definitely recommend finding people that have like interests similar to yours. And so these are just a few questions that we kind of went over. So what's your idea? Why does it matter? Etc. And this is due in 2 weeks, just a reminder. And so like these milestones, they're not really something like homework per se, but we just want you to be on track so you don't have to like push everything back until like the last day. Because you're not going to learn anything if you just wait until the last day to start doing stuff. So where can you find data sets? I think we kind of went over like Kaggle. So first we can go to Kaggle. So if you have not heard of Kaggle, it's a pretty extensive data set storage place. So they have data sets ranging from a wide variety of topics. You can search it up here, or you can just look at random data sets. And there's a lot of interesting stuff. I would definitely recommend looking through it before you decide on like what data set you're going to choose for your project. A lot of stuff you'll find interesting. And then there's also other resources. So there's 2 links here, also in public data sets and mldata.io that have even more data sets. So my advice would just be like, before you settle on a project and a data set, be sure to look as many data sets as possible before you decide on your project. Does anyone have any questions over what this semester will entail for bootcamp? Cool. Yeah, so like I said, you're going to draft your project proposal. It's due in about 2 weeks. It shouldn't be that much effort. It's only 1 page. If you have like 4 or 5 team members, very simple. So if there are any questions, we're going to get onto the actual data science coding stuff today. So I'm going to assume most people have their drive mounted. If you don't, yeah.
The link for making the teams doesn't work on the milestone work.
The link for
The Google Forms link doesn't work.
The open links.
Yeah, we will fix that later on, and we'll send a new link and probably to Discord. So thank you for pointing that out. All right, so we're going to begin with like a little bit of data science intro, but not really. So the first thing, has anyone heard of pandas before? Do you know what it is?
Sounds like a library for data manipulation.
Yeah, so it's a very, very popular library for data science. It essentially allows you to read like Excel files, CSV files, a lot of file reading and writing. So this is why we use pandas. And also, it's kind of like an Excel doc, but in terms of code. So everyone should run this import. So import pandas as PD. That essentially tells your machine that, hey, I want to use this library, and I want you to import it as the name PD. So you can use all of pandas' libraries functions through calling like PD dot, and then whatever the method is. So if you, for example, run like pd.read_csv, this will read a CSV file, and if you give it like the name of a file, in this example, like Titanic_train.csv, if you run it, you should see that we make a data frame, and then we see like the first 5 rows of the data. And you can see in the Google Drive the actual entire CSV file. Go to participants, and then there's a folder called data. And so if you look at this file, you can see the entire file. And we essentially just want to convert that file and then into a object we can modify and read through in Python. So that's just a bit of an intro into data frames and pandas, but we're going to cover them more extensively in 2 weeks. Right now, it's mainly going to be like an intro to Python because we're going to be using Python for data science. And the reason why is because it's very easy to understand. And there's a ton of libraries for data science. So not just pandas, but also libraries to make machine learning models and also to plot data. And another popular language besides Python is R, but it's a little bit more complicated and harder to learn. So that's why we don't use R in this bootcamp. So any questions before we move on? Okay, how many of you guys are familiar with Python? Yeah, that's perfect. This will be mainly a review for you guys. Anybody not familiar with Python, though? Like, we still have a few people that are not with the program, but we'll get you guys up to speed. All right, so Python, just a quick review on variables. So variables, they are assigned using the equals operator. So in this line, we're setting the value of A equal to 5, and the value of B equal to 15. And then we're printing out the value A plus B. So if you add the 2 numbers up, we're going to get 20. And we can also set variables to strings, and then add the strings together. So if we run this, you can see we print out 20 for this line, and then the entire string concatenated together for C plus D. Does anyone know what variables are not allowed in Python? Like what variable names? Yeah.
Reserved words?
Reserved words. Okay, that's one.
First.
Numbers, yep. So you can't just do like 1 equals 5. That's not valid. And then there's a couple of other special cases like spaces. So you can't do A space B equals whatever. And also dashes, I think. So just be careful when you're naming your variables. Another quick thing, if statements, very popular in terms of coding. You're definitely going to be using those. You can have an if statement and a condition. So in this case, we're checking if the string C plus D is equal to the string data science is fun. And if that's the case, then we run the line below it. And if it's not the case, then else, we print out false. And so we already know that C plus D is equal to data science is fun. So we can see the code prints out correct. And another thing, for loops. You're definitely going to be using for loops all the time. For loops allow you to iterate over a certain range or numbers, and this allows you to reuse code without having to type in like print DSGT 5 times. So here we're just using this Python iterator called range. So this iterates from 0 to A, and it prints out DSGT for each iteration. And notice that coding Python is 0 indexed, so we're going to start off at 0, and we're going to end at 4. So we're going to do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so 5 times we're going to print out DSGT. So just note that the end index is not inclusive, because A is 5, but we actually only went up to 4. So any questions on if statements or for loops? Cool. Yeah, like I said, it's mostly going to be review. You can also print out or use a for loop over strings. So you can do like a for letter in a string, and that just allows you to iterate over each string or a character. So in this case, if we iterate over datasets is fun, we're going to print out each character, which is like DA, TA, base, and so on. And another thing, we have lists in Python. If you have coded in Java, they're more commonly known as arrays. So a list is just a set of objects. They can be of the same type. So like in this case, we have all strings. We can also set we can also have different objects or different types. So instead of all strings, we can have like integers. In this case, we're setting C equal to like an array or list of these 3 elements. And then we can index arrays using indexing. So the bracket notation allows you to index at a specific number. And note that it is 0 indexed. So the first element begins at 0. So if I want to print out like the first element, I need to do C of 0. And then, like I said, we can have different types. So set the first element equal to an integer. And if we run this code, you can see that the first item is A, and then we set the value of index 1 equal to 23. Then counterpart to lists is tuples. They're essentially uneditable lists. So if you try to edit like a tuple, you're going to get an error. And the distinction is that tuples are defined with parentheses, while lists are defined with brackets. Any questions on lists versus tuples? Cool. Another thing, dictionaries. Dictionaries are essentially like key value pairs. So the way you define a dictionary is with brackets. And so each key in here maps to a value. So in this case, the keys in this dictionary are data science, GPA, and best numbers. And then the values are fun, 4, and an array 3, 4. And the way you index dictionaries is just have the variable name of the dictionary, and then index it by like an array, so the brackets, and then your key. And once again, you can reassign values for dictionaries. So like, for example, instead of having best numbers to be 3, 4, you can do 99 or 100, or we can do something completely different, like a string or a number or an object. And we can also add keys. So if we try to if we try to index like birds are real, you can see that it doesn't exist in the dictionary. So Python will automatically add it for you when you set the value to be anything. And so if we print out the dictionary after we make these edits, you can see that best numbers is now 99 and 100, and then birds are real is false, because we just added that to the dictionary. Any questions on dictionaries? I think one more thing is functions. So this is actually pretty important. Functions allow you to reuse code, and it improves the readability of your file. Otherwise, you would just have a bunch of lines stacked on top of each other, and we really don't want to do that, especially if you're working as a team. So a function is used by using the keyword def. So def, and then your function name. So in this case, it's add, and then the function parameters. So a and b, the parameters. And then this function in particular, it just sums up the two numbers and then returns it using the return keyword. So now we can like reuse the function by essentially calling add and then two different numbers. And you can just see like 2 plus 4 is 6, 4 plus 7 is 11, 12 plus 6 is 18. Yeah, so these are pretty much like basics of Python. You really need to know Python to be successful in data science. So if you don't know Python or you were having trouble with like these basic concepts, I would definitely recommend reviewing Python and then also looking at the resources we provide about Python. So any questions on Python in general? Okay, if not, Faris will take over and discuss like GitHub and version control.
Okay, hello everyone. So for this part, I am going to share my screen because I would like to draw. So GitHub and version control. First time I've heard those words, I did not understand anything. So let's go slowly of what they each mean. So assume one day you're writing a huge essay. You're writing an essay and you have an idea of to add something to the essay, but you don't know if that idea is going to make the essay worse or better. So what you do is you make a copy of that essay and then you make the changes. In that new copy, if you like the changes, you keep this copy. If not, then you throw out this new copy and just reuse that old copy. That is essentially the most basic form of version control. You are controlling the version of the document and you are making sure that whatever versions that you commit or save onto this particular line of commits is the best one, the best version that you have in control. So in other words, you have the old version of the document and new version of the document where you put your new features or your new lines of paragraphs in that essay. Okay, so that here we are introduced to two versions of the document, version 1 and version 2, with version 2 being the one that is the later one. But obviously we see a couple of disadvantages with using this copy-based approach in that it wastes a lot of space for our system, and we don't need all of that repetitions. Like we know, for example, this part stays constant, only this part is changed. So what we do instead is that we only track the changes that we made. So we keep a copy, we keep the original document, and then we just track, oh, you wrote a new line of paragraph in this part, so I will track this part as the change in this commit. So this is essentially what Git, the software, is doing. It's tracking the lines of code of your software that you are changing as you save new versions of the application. And when you want to save a new version of your new code, that is essentially what we call a commit. So when you want to save a new version of the code, that is essentially equal to what we call a commit. All right, so that is the meaning of commit. Any questions up to now? Okay, cool. So now that you have saved this new version of the code, and now you can continue working on that specific branch of version to add on new features. So say, for example, now you have added feature B, you want to add feature C. So what you do is just you continue this line of version and add a new thing onto your code or your essay. So now you have the first edition and then you have the second edition, which is what is changed in version 3. Now, obviously, we don't want to keep all of these saves or commits just numbers because we don't really mean anything, and we're dumb. We need to know its meaning. So instead, we add messages onto these commits or saves. So the first version, we can add a message saying this is the initial version of the document or the code. For the second version, we added a new line of paragraph. So we can just put a message added line of paragraph. And version 3, you added a new line. So added a new line. Obviously, when you're committing code, you're going to add more specific descriptions. Please don't follow my example. I'm bringing horrible examples here. Okay, so now you have 3 versions of your document or your code, and you can just continue working on this this branch of commits until you are satisfied with the final application that you push. And any time that you are stumped or you suddenly save a horrible feature on your code and it turns out to be extremely buggy, all you have to do is just jump to the previous commit. So it's essentially the same way that we reuse the old copy of that big essay. If you are unhappy with a commit, all you have to do is that you can just jump to a previous commit and work on from that commit. So this is the beauty of Git, the software. It allows you to have that much control of your code, and it allows you to backtrack if and when you make mistakes, because you will make mistakes, and don't get frustrated over it. Git is there to help you. Now, turns out this is actually very useful when you want to work on a single application where multiple people contribute to that application. So how do you want to share your code? Well, you publish it online. And how do you usually publish your documents online? You use Google Drive. How do you publish your code online? You use GitHub. So up in the cloud, you will have GitHub. So GitHub is essentially a Google Drive of your code. You can choose who take the access, and you can choose. You can just designate the access and how much permissions people have to edit and view your code. So now you have all of this branch of commits, and all you do is you push it to the cloud. So now you have an exact copy of the branch on your cloud, and whenever your teammate wants to work on that same code, all they have to do is that they pull it from the cloud, and they get a duplicate of the code in the cloud. And from there on, your teammate can work on the code while you're not working on the code, and they can just push, and you can pull the latest changes when your friend commits those changes and push them onto the cloud. So again, this is the beauty of GitHub. It just allows that collaboration of software development to happen seamlessly. And furthermore, what if you want to work simultaneously? Now, obviously, you don't want to work simultaneously on the same file, because if your friend makes a change on that file and then you make another change on that file, and then when you want to push that file together, saving to the same save and commit, it's going to cause a whole lot of problem. So instead, you both work on 2 different features or 2 different files. So in that case, you, for example, can work on file A, your friend can work on file B, and both of you can push and pull to the GitHub repo, ultimately all arriving to the completed code. And to help that, we essentially will add what we call a new branch of your code. Okay, so remember how we have a whole branch of the code, of the saves, of the commits of your code? Now we want to add a new branch. Wow, this is ugly. Okay. So right now, this is your current branch, and you want to make a new branch. So this we will call the main branch, and this one we will call branch new. So this version of the code and this version of the code is essentially a clone of each other. They are equal and the same in each regard. You can work on the main branch, and your friend can work on the new branch to work on a different aspect of the code. And when both of you are happy with whatever feature that you are both implementing, you can just essentially combine that onto the same branch where you will publish and deploy your application. So this document already has a lot of advice to help you, get started on GitHub. And essentially, it all starts with you installing Git on your computer. And you want to make sure that you have Git installed on your computer by typing git -version. If it pops out a version number, then you have Git installed. If it does not, then you will need to install Git on your computer. But yeah, if there is anything that you will take from this GitHub presentation, it is these three instructions: add, commit, and push. I have not exactly told you the meaning of add, but it is essentially making sure that everything that you want to save or commit onto your branch, that is what you want to commit. So the good thing about GitHub is that Git is that it allows you to choose which files and which changes you want to save or commit, and that is where the add function comes. If you change two files A and files B, but you only want to commit the changes made on file B, all you have to do is just git add file B, but not file A. So when you do a git commit, only the changes in file B will be saved, but git A's changes will be ignored. So that is essentially Git. It's really very simple, but if you have not used Git before, I will seriously recommend that you try using GitHub Desktop or my personal favorite, Git Kraken, because it really shows you how these branches and these commits are visualized. So here, for example, you can see all of the commits made in this one branch, and you can see there are 3 lines or 3 branches in this current repo, and you can just see how it's visualized, merging and pulling and pushing from each other. So yeah, I'm not going to explain too much because I know we've run out of time. But yeah, anybody have any questions on GitHub as of now? Okay, awesome. So before you all go, make sure to please scan this QR code so we can take your attendance. Okay.
Does the QR code work for anyone?
Okay, I may have shared the wrong link. If it doesn't work, even though you should, try this new QR code. Okay, it should work. So yeah, just make sure you sign in with your name so we can take attendance.
Yeah, and be sure to find teams because the first milestone is due in 2 weeks. So you can find them here or just type in Discord and find teammates there.
Oh, and one more thing, one of us is going to send a more detailed message of what we expect from you for milestone 1 on the Discord channel by tonight. So make sure you have that tuned in because we're going to send more information on Discord. Okay, so if you all have signed in, thank you for attending, and we hope to see you in 2 weeks for workshop 2. Where is it?